quote Luke Owen's favorite wrestling storytelling line from the last, well, you said your whole life. No yeet.
So this.
Hello and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. I'm Ollie Davis. I'm joined by Luke Owen, DAD, who just loves that angle on Friday's SmackDown.
So before we were talking about earlier about SmackDown, and I said one of my least favorite things I've seen this year, but was also my favorite thing I've seen this year because I howled with laughter, was the interaction between Roman Reigns and Jey Uso when Jey Uso so sadly went, "No yeet," and he walked away, because it's the most unserious word but used in the most serious of ways, and it was hysterically funny.
Well, of course, Jey Uso no-yeeted his own Intercontinental title defense. He is no longer Intercontinental champion. It's back on Bron Breakker. It was always the plan, I'm sure. Please, if you haven't already, press the thumbs up button, give us a subscribe. Yes, I do know I said please. I know I said it.
I always flub over that line, so don't be too hard on yourself, man.
It's like a different flub each time, though. And leave your comments down below with what you thought of this episode of Monday Night Raw, and sending your chat gables to WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out every single one over $5 before the end of the show. But to start with, we're starting at the end, Memento style. This was Jey Uso's second Intercontinental title defense.
Sure was.
Held it for 3 weeks, won it from Bron Breakker. A lot of us thought, well, that's too early for Bron to lose, but looks like he's going up to the World Heavyweight title picture with Gunther. Turn face. And then he loses the title back to Bron on this episode. Bron's back to being a heel. Bron's back to being the Intercontinental champion. And I loved it. I don't know, son of a bitch.
Listen, the actual, so if I can get a minor negative out of the way first, I was so excited when this match started because Bron does his promo and he makes his entrance. And I'm like, there are 33 minutes left of this show. I looked at the timer on Discovery Plus. It's like 33 minutes. That is wild. By the time all the entrances, ad breaks, and backstage segments were done, it was 21 minutes. And then they immediately went to an ad break.
Yeah, because you can't have the main event first entrance happen and then go into the next entrance. You need to do a backstage promo section.
Yeah. So some of the timing was kind of put me in a bit of a sour mood.
It's the way it is now.
I know.
This is a template. I'll just recap it. Ring entrances, 30 seconds of action, then a 4-minute ad break, then several minutes of action. Usually they've taken to doing this in one continuous camera shot, then another 4-minute ad break, and then you come back for the final 7 to 8 minutes.
But by the time, it was 33 minutes by the time Bron started his entrance. By the time that the actual match started, there was 21 minutes left of the show, which still in itself is a pretty good amount of time. But then there was a lot of ad breaks within there to kind of ruin the flow of the match. But the final 7 minutes that we got were exceptional. Like, so good.
We can't even really talk about the first 10, 12 minutes because we didn't see any.
There's nothing to happen within there. So we got 30 seconds, then a 4-minute ad break, and then the next several minutes portion we got was just Bron doing moves to Jey. And then we came back from the second ad break, and Jey started his comeback spot. But even then, he didn't even start his comeback spots because the Bloodline show up. Basically, as soon as we come back from the ad break, the second one, the Bloodline show up. And that's the last portion of this match. It's not a Jey comeback, it's the Bloodline. And I thought this was so entertaining.
Well, I think, and this is what I lose sight of sometimes, WWE don't do wrestling. They do stories. Like how in AEW, the wrestling is at the expense of stories a lot of the time.
Sometimes,
I think. It's the opposite thing for WWE. The storylines do come at the expense of in-ring wrestling.
There was a thing that was going around on Reddit and I believe on Twitter as well when the Motor City Machine Guns debuted to an anti-pop on SmackDown, which is that WWE fans aren't wrestling fans, they're WWE fans.
Yeah.
They're not really there for wrestling, they're there for entrances and superstars.
Which is fine because it's just a different thing.
It's a different thing. And what we got here was entrances and superstars and then more superstars showing up around ringside. And I was thoroughly sports entertained by all said and done.
Yeah, this is Bloodline at the best kind of family psychodrama stuff.
It's the best that Bloodline 2.0 have been since Well, probably since they kind of came together, because they came together and it was
Fatu's good.
Well, yeah. I mean, as a whole, I think as a whole they looked like a
no.
good...
When they took out Heyman, that was a great angle.
That was okay. So they've had one good angle in 8 months.
But then Roman comes back, and that was all.
Then he just laid them out.
Well, I'm just saying, there's been at least 2 good showings
in the 8 months. You're okay. Maybe I'm being harsh, but I thought that they looked so good here. My favorite moment though was Bron and Jacob. Well, that bit was so cool.
Let's go through the twists and turns of these final 7 minutes. So Jey and Bron are on the outside, and that's when Solo and Jacob Fatu, they walk through the crowd. They've bought tickets. I've got tickets.
I'm just here to support you. You've even got Jey merchandise.
Yeah, yeet. And they sit in the front row. And like, what? We're here to support you. And Jay's like, I love that beat because Solo wins either way. It's sarcastic and Jey loses. Well, hey, Jey thinks they are there to support him, and they join up as a Bloodline family. So Jey looks at them and he's annoyed. And then all of a sudden he's by the other barricade. And some dude, I didn't recognize Tongaloa, did you?
Yeah, sorry, I knew it was Tongaloa, yeah.
But he just put his arm around him and was like, go on, man, you can do it. And I thought, is that Jimmy? No, it's Tongaloa. And then Jey gets both Tongans over the barricade and takes them both out.
Yeah.
At which point Solo hops the barricade. What are you doing, bro?
What are you doing? Why are you beating him up?
Bron is doing his supercharged run round the ring spear, misses Jey, and spears Solo Sikoa.
In the neck. Like, he speared him in the neck.
I will put over Solo here as well. I feel like this is the best Solo in terms of performance.
I agree. Even though he is being systematically beaten up every week, it's the best he's looked as the boss.
It's like either you do the whole thing where you kill John Cena with all the spikes and you're dead silent. If you're not that Solo, I think you have to be sniveling coward.
It's NXT, like where he was a bit comedy Solo.
Yeah. I'm baffled that there's no other bit in between on his register.
I thought he was really great here, but then so Bron spears Solo in the neck, and it just cuts to Jacob Fatu, who's like, "What?" Yeah. And he's got this look on his face, like, I'm going to murder someone now.
And I
have no idea who you are, but you are a dead man.
It was so cool. I mean, I got another little reading from it that Jacob is seeing Solo on the floor, and that was the first. Like, I think 99% that was his thought process. I have to kill you now, Bron Breakker. There's 1%, a chip in the armor, chink in the armor, of Jacob thinking, that's my tribal chief on the floor?
Yeah, I've now got to...
He's not a good enough tribal chief.
Oh!
Like maybe one day it'll be me doing that.
I think, in 2 years' time, we'll get to that point.
And this is the first bit.
I like it. Well, we can look back at these moments. But Jacob and Bron squared off, and this crowd went ballistic for this, as did I, because I thought this was tremendously exciting.
And it's crazy because I would say the crowd, and this is a Philadelphia crowd, didn't care up until this point.
Yeah.
They weren't reacting, and this is Bron versus Jey.
But it's not a match.
Yeah.
It's you're doing a wrestling match for 14 minutes, but it's not a wrestling match. So the crowd are just not reacting to anything. Then you start all the goo-goo and gaga, and then you react to things.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And it was such a cool moment, and they did just enough for Bron to go face-to-face with Jacob on the outside, these two mega tough guys. And Jey takes them both out with a dive.
Yeah. And that is when the crowd chanted, "This is awesome." For no actual wrestling moves, they were chanting, "This is awesome." And it was awesome. And then you go and you do the back and forth with Jey. So you do the Uso splash, knees up, avoiding the spear. Jey hits a spear of his own. Bron kicks out. Bron kicks out of the Uso splash. And then Pierce came down and kind of removed the Gorillas of Destiny from the fracas.
They both hopped up on the ring apron and were distracting things.
So security guard, and that also distracted the referee, which allowed the werewolf to rise. And Jacob gets up and he murders Jey Uso around ringside. And Bron Breakker looks at this and goes, "I'm winning back my IC title."
Woof.
So cool.
The murderization came because Jey ran round the ring to hit a spear on Bron, doing Bron's own move on him. But Jacob intercepts it with a super kick, then Samoan drop onto the table that didn't break.
Eesh.
Yeah, really good stuff. and Bron chucks Jey in the ring off that, hits his supercharged double bounce spear, and wins. Wins back the IC title.
Yeah.
Now, storyline-wise, I know I was... I was pretty down on this whole Bron... going back on Bron turning heel again, so dropping the babyface thing, which they definitely stopped gaslighting in WWE. You definitely did that. You definitely said he was a babyface now and he was going to challenge Gunther for the World Heavyweight title.
Yeah.
But then they went back on that. You know, our speculation is that Goldberg, something Bill Goldberg.
It's a pivot. It was supposed to be Rock and Roman. Then they pivoted.
But if this is the way you do it, you've got Bron back to being a heel, which I wasn't done with yet. You've got him back to being Intercontinental Champion, which I wasn't done with yet. So, okay, there's a blemish there, but this is a better state of affairs, I think. And you said, well, hopefully Jey has a long run with the title now. But actually, the fact that he only got 3 weeks for his first ever singles win, and it was the new Bloodline who cost him it, I think it really fuels him getting back together with his OG Bloodline.
There's a lot of net positives to take from this, and it is Bron's back with the IC title, which I think is a net positive. Bron back to his character that he was 3 weeks ago, I think is a net positive. Jey having a good reason to get back involved, because actually, like, I make fun of the backstage segment with him and Roman with no yeet as he walked away, but him in ring with the Bloodline was fabulous. When he was like, why did you... There's a reason.
Don't look at me like
there's
that.
a reason why we never brought these guys in, because they're dangerous dudes. I thought all that stuff was great. So Jey being now fully back in the Bloodline storyline, which is what we kind of wanted to see happen, is again a net positive. And really, at the end of the day, I said this when he won the title. I said if he has a short reign, it ultimately doesn't matter, because in WWE's mind, well, he's a former Intercontinental Champion. And that is all you need to say. Like, when they gave the list of accomplishments, they were like, Rikishi's a former Intercontinental Champion. I was like, and what did it mean? Ultimately, nothing. But they can say he's a former Intercontinental Champion. In 4 years' time, you can say he's a former Intercontinental Champion, and it means just as much if he'd had a 4-year reign or a 3-month reign. So you kind of get that net positive as well. He's a former singles champion. I do think it is a shame that your whole story was it took you 14 years to win a belt, and then you held it for 3 weeks. I think that is naff, but in the long run, it doesn't matter.
But it's more heartbreaking for him. Like, it's not.
But it would have been as heartbreaking if the GOD and the Bloodline 2.0 cost him that match in the first place. Like, if you didn't win, like the ultimate, the net positive and the ultimate goal would have been the exact same results. But we now have a 3-week title reign in here, and a little bit of switcheroo with characters and stuff.
I think you're right. Actually, that would have been the best way for this match to have been the first match. Bron's still IC champion.
Yeah,
he's beaten a few other people, and now he's facing Jey.
But it's okay. Like, they can, and I'm quite willing to be gaslit into all of this to be like, it didn't really happen, and Bron is just the IC champ, and we're just back to where we were 3 weeks ago. And that's, fine. Or 4 weeks ago, I should say.
Well, let's see what you'll think in the chat, Gables. Just let me open up my doc here. We have Matt Hennessy, who says, I'm not a fan of short title reigns, but when it makes sense for the storyline and characters, I'm fine with it. Will Ospreay held the international title for 6 weeks before getting screwed over by the Don Callis family. Jey Uso was IC champ for 4 weeks before getting screwed over by the Bloodline. I think it was 3.
It was 3 weeks.
3 weeks. It fits both guys' character arcs and doesn't hurt them or title. Bron needs the title more than Jey does. I think that's true.
I think it's true as well, but then I don't do the story of, this is the lifelong thing that he's been working towards.
Jey's character arc was proving he could be successful without the Bloodline. He did that and then got screwed by the Bloodline. That's a nice part of it as well. Like, we won't let you go off and do your own thing. That should plant the seeds for Jey agreeing to help Roman and Jimmy. My hope is whoever wins the tag title tournament finals on SmackDown between Motor City Machine Guns and DIY beats New Bloodline for the tag titles, with Jey screwing them over.
Should be 100%. I mean, regardless of which team wins, they should beat the New Bloodline, because much like the Raw tag titles, they are just swallowed up within a faction that doesn't need them. But Jey costing them those belts is thematically very nice.
Jey costing them the belts, or Jey and Jimmy?
Also, very, very nice. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think there's a slight difference between the Will thing, because the Will losing the belt was ultimately for Will to win the belt back. Like it wasn't Will having a short reign. It was really fair MJF to have a short reign for Will to win it back at a much bigger show. Like Jay's not winning this belt back, is my point.
Power Packers 90, 38-month Memberg. That's a long time. It's 3 years. I'm sorry, but I hated this match. The new Bloodline looks so dumb. Why actively do something that is going to get Jey back in with the old Bloodline? So stupid. I'm a done.
I don't think I would say that it was stupid. I also don't think they looked dumb.
No, this is one of the few times that new Bloodline looked pretty strong.
Honestly, you wanted a group look dumb. Check out what happened to the Judgment Day on this show.
Demon Arc 117. I know I'm in the minority here, but the Bloodline story is ice cold for me. It's gone on far too long, and the results are predictable. I genuinely hope that War Games... Oh, Demon Arc.
Oh, Demon Arc.
I genuinely hope that War Games is the end of it.
100%. If not, it's the start of the next innings.
Mm-hmm. J.O. Fella, I would have liked it more if Jacob just showed up alone and cost Jey the title because of what happened on SmackDown between them. But Solo didn't order him to do it, showing small signs already of Jacob and the GODs wanting to leave Solo. Don't do that stuff yet. Solo desperately needs credibility.
Yeah.
And all those guys believing in him so much is the only thing propping them up.
Because I was going to say to Demon Arc's point about, I'm hoping this is going to be over. You've got to have Solo reuniting with the old Bloodline up against new Bloodline.
Zilla.
Exactly.
Other ones. There's others.
Well, sure. Hikuleo.
Yeah. And Kuzu, finally for now, was surprised how sad I was when Jey lost. I really warmed up to him, but I knew what was going to happen when Bron turned heel again, and cemented when Jey unnecessarily went to SmackDown. Bron and Jacob are the future after Cody and Roman are gone.
I suppose that would be, you could argue a wrinkle within the storyline that Jey didn't need to get involved in the Bloodline family drama. He did not need to go over to SmackDown and insert himself, considering that he is so adamant, I'm not getting involved, I'm now getting involved.
It reminds me of all the women I watch on reality shows who say, I'm not about the drama. And walk head first into all the drama available. I'm like, hun, you're the one right in the middle of it.
Is that what you say at the TV?
I say, Polly. I'm married at first sight. Hun. You're a bully. So it's channeling Dan Layton. Right, please do keep sending in your, what they call chat gables to WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out every single one over $5 US. And an even better way to support us is go over to Patreon.com/WrestleTalk, where you can get what, Luke?
Exclusive episodes, an exclusive series of the Monday Night War. The last chance. It's me versus Pete for the last time. It's my last chance to finally beat him at the Monday Night War, playing WWE 2K 2024.
Episode 7 of 12, so we're over the halfway
the halfway mark. So you sign up now, there's our full half series to catch up on, and there's another half series yet to come. And it's getting spicy. Also, Dan Layton makes a cameo in this most recent episode. Not only did he make a cameo, he actually broke a lot of our audio equipment.
Did he?
Yeah, he showed up and he opened the door and he came and sat down, but didn't close the door behind him. So producer Courtney got up to shut the door, but she had her headphones wired to the recorder. No. And so when she got to shut the door, that Dan left open because he was born in a barn, apparently. All of the microphones fell off. We lost a bit of audio, but we've now recovered that audio. But yeah, Dan shows up. Is carnage. Also, that was the day where you and Tempest were doing the AEW podcast and couldn't get it to go live. And I had to come in here and help you out.
Is that on the episode 7?
That was during that taping, yeah. So Dan was just
because Dan was there. Yeah. Yes. Right, so please, patreon.com/WrestleTalk, Monday Night War, Survival Series, 3 Count, TLC, and WrestleTalk Extra, which we are recording the next episode of on Wednesday.
Tomorrow? Yeah, it's me and you tomorrow, bud. Me and you all day get to talk about TNA Final Resolution 2007.
So my script today, I was talking about Kevin Nash's comments on Triple H, how Triple H would have potentially left WWE if Vince stayed around. And I billed Kevin Nash as Triple H's longtime friend and pioneer of the X Division.
I'm having so much fun doing TNA at the moment. Episode 3, head on over to patreon.com and you see us do the first 2 episodes, they were so fun to go. Genesis 06 was great, but turning points.
It's when it gets, crap TNA. It's when TNA it.
They totally TNA. And actually, Final Resolution is such a TNA show. I
can't wait to talk about it because there is one segment that I tried to talk to you about. I was like, no, we can't. Let's save it for the show.
And it features Mr. Bob Backlund.
Who is insane. He's an insane man.
Yeah, Eric Young and Jeremy Borash are playing at being insane around Bob Backlund, but Bob Backlund's just actually insane with them.
Right. Patreon.com/WrestleTalk. This episode of Raw was in Philadelphia, Canada, and it began with lots of shots of people entering the building, including the crown jewel belt.
I've written here the women's version of the ugly belt gets a bigger rival.
I called it like Baron Harkonnen from June.
Very nice. Sort of cultural.
Yeah, I guess sci-fi.
Yeah, well, it's been a big movie this year.
Pop culture, way. And in those cold open bits, they've done this before, I think, when Dom and Liv showed up in their car and it started a brawl with Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman. But Bronson Reed's the last shown arriving, and Seth Rollins just decks him in the back with a wheelie bag and walks out into the ring, calls him out.
So cool.
Reed comes down, big pull-apart brawl. Reed's going to do a tsunami off the barricade through the announce table. A security guard stops him. Reed picks him up and does like a lobbing F5 on him.
Yeah, into a bunch of other security guards. Then goes for the tsunami, but Rollins misses. And this table proper explodes. The front portion of this shot out and hit the ring. It was it was mad. It was so cool.
Very satisfying.
I thought this opening was really, really great. Bronson Reed is Raw's A+ player at the moment. It's anything he's involved in is usually my favorite thing on the show.
And why else was it so great?
Was it the belt?
No. Specifically the Seth Bron stuff.
Bronson Reed.
Bronson.
I don't know. What do you think was the best bit?
Well, there's the best bit is more about what wasn't there.
Oh, you're talking about because it wasn't Seth being Seth?
Yes! Seth comes out, he's like, get out here right now, blah, blah, blah.
He even cut off his music.
Yeah.
It wasn't Seth being Seth. It was being, my name is Seth Rollins and I am a person.
So thank you, Seth Rollins. I'm sure you watched this show. But I'm really, really grateful because I think you're so good.
Yeah.
And it pains me when you do the laughing stuff.
I know, but just, he'll do the usual entrance when we get to Crown Jewel. Mm-hmm. And then once this feud is over, right back to it.
He did, so they have 2 segments backstage later on. One where Jackie Redmond brilliantly asks Adam Pearce, what are you going to do to restore order around here? Both Bronson and Seth just start fighting again. And then the 3rd segment, Pierce is like, okay, you're going to get a match at Crown Jewel. And Seth just goes, yeah.
He's in there.
Oh,
he's in there.
It really makes my skin crawl. We got a backstage segment with Io Sky and Kairi Sane being interviewed about the Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson NXT match and all the stuff that's been going on there.
Ollie often gets the letters mixed up on those, so you might call one of them Lakara Jackson and Jash Legend.
Jash. Lakara and Jash. But the tallest human beings in the world, Liv and Raquel, came over.
No, Raquel is because Liv is minuscule.
Liv looks so tall compared to Io and Kairi.
But that's only because Raquel, I didn't notice it because Raquel just towers over them. Raquel is both Kairi and Io stood on each other's shoulders.
Yeah, they're Muppet Man in it. There's it really does feel like those forced perspective scenes in Lord of the Rings. But Liv and Raquel just interrupt the interview to call out Nia Jax and blah, blah, blah. they all have a match together later on.
A tag match is made, though Lillian Garcia would have me believe that there were other people involved, and the graphics would make me believe it was a singles match. Because when they made their entrance, it just said Liv Morgan. And I was like, oh, I thought this was a tag match.
I think someone's like, oh, it's Liv Morgan and Raquel. Are we going with Rodriguez? Are we sticking with Rodriguez? Just press the Chiron. Okay, it's Liv Morgan.
I can't remember which one it was. What was she first and they got checked? What's she back to? I just put Liv.
It's the Viking Rodriguez. So after that, the first match was New Day versus AOP, where we did get Samantha Irvine's hopefully temporary replacement.
No, she's back full time.
Okay. It's not like you only realise how good someone is when they're gone, but of course Samantha Irvine, the ring announcer, announced that she's leaving WWE just before this episode of Raw. And I have really enjoyed her work, consciously. I'm like, she is such a good ring announcer.
I made a joke about her in an old 3-can episode where I was like, she's going to blow out her vocal cords because she probably gutturally screams out people's names. And I thought it was a bit much, but actually over time I'm like, I was so wrong, and she has added so much to this show. Like her announcement of Cody winning the belt at Mania 40 is one of the greatest ring announcer calls I've ever heard.
Yeah, she's up there. I mean, she's probably the greatest ring announcer since Fink, yeah, maybe.
I think she's the best since Fink.
I really like Justin Roberts, but I think she brings more emotion to it.
I think because Fink sounded like he cared a lot, and like he had that also because he was the voice during like that real boom period. So you're like, no, like when you hear a title change, you imagine that voice. But yeah, I think she's the best since the Fink, and I like Justin, and I like Lillian to a degree, or even Schimmel, but they were just voices. They were just people who held a microphone and said names. Like Irvine and Fink, man, I think are the greatest to ever do it.
So I don't want to be too mean, but the step down from one of the greatest WWE ring announcers ever to Lillian Garcia, who was just a voice to me. Like, a lot of that probably wasn't her fault. It was the way she was produced.
And she also got a bit about because she was the person that replaced Fink, and a lot of that was because, well, Fink's you're too old because you're now 41, so get off TV screens, old man. Granted, he looked like he was 41 when he was 25. Yes, yeah. But yeah, so she was, and then she was just the voice of WWE during the period that no one really likes.
I hear her voice, and it's not her fault, but it's like Pavlovian. I just don't care. Yeah. It felt like, and when she was doing live stuff here, I thought, are they playing audio clips of just introduce AOP, introduce... And then she did get a lot of stuff wrong.
Yeah, she effed up the first thing that she said.
Which was #1 containers match. Which I think was very funny.
It was funny.
So this was New Day versus AOP. Again, didn't really get a great deal of the in-ring wrestling. It was mostly commercial break.
I'm also just sad that whichever one of Akam and Razar that it was, in the old graphic they had for this was like this big like Star Wars android character. It's like, where's he gone? I want to see him.
I've written AOP had 3 managers here, which is quite unfair. And then The Miz comes out.
The Miz joins
so they have 4 managers.
Well, Meltzer thinks... And I don't know how true this is, but Meltzer reckons that the ending angle we get here was to write Ellering out of the group.
Yeah.
I mean, because in fairness, he adds nothing to this group.
The Miz and Karrion Kross, they're all yucking it up heel-wise outside. And then the slight... R-Truth attacked Miz because they're in a feud. And that slight distraction on one of the AOP let Kofi Kingston get a roll-up victory, and New Day win, they advance. Final Testament afterwards, they beat up R-Truth in the ring. And the best bit about all of this, Kofi wants to go down and help. He did that last week to save Jey against Bron. But this time, Xavier is stopping him, saying, no, it's not our fight.
Yeah.
And fair play to Woods. There's 5 of them.
What I really liked about this as well is that Woods was not all that upset when he was celebrating with Truth. Because, like, he's celebrating with Truth. Like, him, Woods, and Truth have got their hands in the air. And he's not, like, angry that Truth interfered and helped him win his match. Because it wasn't Kofi's plan behind his back or anything like that. It was just something that was happenstance. It's like, I'll take this opportunity. It's the Ray thing. He beat Ray because he took advantage of a situation that maybe he shouldn't have taken advantage of. But actually, when Truth needs help, he's like, well, it's not our fight. Like, we're not getting involved in this.
Just on that, to skip ahead a bit, LWO Advance against American Made later on. So next week, for the number 1 containership, it's going to be the New Day versus LWO versus Viking War Raiders.
Uh-oh.
I think they do the finish of the Ray match.
Oh, yeah.
Where Xavier, but intentionally this time, he pulls off either a Dragon Lee or a Ray's mask.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not intentionally. The mask comes off. Woods wins the match, but this time Kofi is more conflicted because it's a match he's in.
Maybe.
And then the week after that is
the
1,000 years since the New Day first formed.
Is it really? I think I say it's 1,000 years since Judgment Day won the tag belts and not defended them.
Final Testament of beating up Truth.
Is that true?
I think so.
So, like, not next week's Raw, the Raws after is 1,000 days since the New Day got together.
You just do the Wyatt 6 thing and I'll find out.
So, yeah, Final Testament of beating up Truth in the ring. Woods is holding Kofi back at the top of the ramp because he don't get involved. The lights go out. Boom, boom, boom. The Wyatt's music plays. They brawl with the Final Testament. Uncle Howdy sets up to attack the Miz, but then Paul Ellering makes the same for the Miz, and Howdy gives him the mandible claw instead. As I said earlier, Meltzer is... I think there's probably a bit of speculation on his part that this is likely to write Ellering out of the group because he's not really needed within this faction. They already have quite a lot of managers already. But yeah, I thought New Day were the right winners here completely. I thought the Wyatt stuff was really fun.
Crowd was hot for them.
Crowd were really hot for them, and it's nice to keep the Wyatts feel like a very special unit. You know, we said on the 3-can episode, I feel like they have lost momentum. And I argued it. I also think them feuding with American Made, then going to a feud with the Miz and Final Testament is a ginormous step down. But the crowd were really hot for this.
Happy that Wyatt 6 back. Thought the beatdown was fun. Eric Rowan is just so cool. It's particularly going against big guys like AOP as well. But yeah, it feels like a step down from where they should have been going. 28th of November. I was miles off.
Far away.
After that, we have the Reed and Seth brawl thing backstage. We got an interview with Jey, yeet. Then we get a Raquel Rodriguez video package.
Yeah, also within this, we did get that recap of SmackDown. No, yeet.
Rodriguez says that Ripley will never get Liv's Women's World Championship while she's around.
Well, I think Rhea proved her wrong later on.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's setting her up as an obstacle that Rhea has to get rid of Raquel first.
We'll get to that in a bit.
But I did appreciate this. Rodriguez did bring up that, hey, you cost me and Liv the titles by injuring us all those years ago.
It's storylines matter.
Another shot of the gaudy belt. And then we got Luke's favourite, Damage Control versus Liv Morgan and Dominic... actually didn't mean to do that. I was going to... Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, accompanied by Dominic Mysterio.
I mean, at one point he probably was going to accompany them, and then that got changed before they went down, and Lillian did not get updated call rundowns.
Do you want to hear another theory? It was a prank from Triple H.
What, to make her look stupid?
Yeah.
Why?
He's always done this. Triple H, Vince McMahon, Shawn Michaels would give Lillian incorrect things.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
As pranks.
Yeah, to make her
because
look
she
stupid.
made so many mistakes anyway.
Yeah, to make her look stupid.
Yeah.
It's a new era, man. Like I mean, I know we'll get to
only one of those guys has got.
I know we'll get to the Carlito bit, coming up. But it feels like a new era where that sort of like on-screen bullying doesn't take place anymore.
Guys, we got rid of the only problem with the company. We didn't work here for 30 years.
I was never part of any of those creative meetings that we had. But anyway, this was Damage Control and Judgment Day. They showed Lash and Jakara at ringside. A lot of this match was built around the power of Raquel. Mm-hmm. So, like, Io and Kairi Sane couldn't beat her up. So, like, anytime they tried to double team her, she just sort of muscled out of that. And that is fine. I think that's a really good use of Raquel, and I think that's a really smart way to do it.
Well, what it is it's a matchup between a cruiserweight and a giant, which we know is...
Ollie played my GM over the weekend, if you can't tell. Like, text me.
It's the best match combo.
Text me about it and everything. Or what did you text me?
I rage quit after half a season because everyone was injured.
And you were sick
Started up a new one.
You're sick of the passive aggressive
Triple
emails.
H. I don't. You do know that wrestlers need to be right. Yeah, I do. I've got no one else.
What do you want me to do?
I'm a bit disappointed in you. I'm going to have to lend you a load of talent. What these guys? I prefer not putting on matches than using.
Oh, I never got to be that point.
Steelworks.
Where I got given like 3 guys. I used to have to go and buy 3 guys.
No, they gave me 3 guys.
But anyway, so like, I think that it's a perfectly good use of Raquel to be, you know, like the big muscle person. Io and Kairi can't take her down. The problem is you then have to build to a hot tag, which means that the person who's doing the hot taggingness on the heel side of things, the bump and feed bit, is the women's world champion. So either Io or Kairi gets tagged in, and then they run wild on the women's world champion, who just looks like rubbish compared to the much better bodyguard that stood there with her. And then the NXT girls got it, and it's a DQ. And I actually shouted, "Oh, F off," in the office.
I was sitting next to you, yeah. I think Io Sky is hardly a hot take, is incredible. And her and Kairi near the end of this match were getting the crowd into it. You could feel it. And again, like last week, there were 3 more minutes in this match that would have given me like, you know, there wasn't much proper in-ring wrestling, but I had that women's tag match near the end. That was good. But yeah, they went for the DQ finish route way too early instead.
Well, it's a DQ finish because it's we don't want to beat either of these teams. We don't want to beat the Sky Pirates because they're going to NXT tomorrow night. Also, we're kind of building them for another tag title show with the Powerpuff Girls. We don't want to beat them. Can't pin Raquel because she's Raquel and she's the one we're protecting. And you can't pin Liv because she's got the big match at Crown Jewel. So the only logical solution here is just to have a DQ. Which is rubbish. Like, you know, don't book the match is actually a much more logical answer. But like, I did not enjoy this. And then Lash, Legend, and Jakara beat up the Sky Pirates afterwards to build up their match for NXT. Are they going up against AEW or something? I'm making a facetious joke, and I know they're not this week. But then came, and I laughed so much at the end of this because we'd gone for a meeting after this. I think so, and we came back, so I got to watch this bit. But I laughed so much at this ending sequence, and I'm going to recap it beat for beat what happens here. So Liv and Raquel square up to Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. This is my brutality hits. Rhea Ripley walks down. The NXT girls leave.
Could have been 1-on-4.
And they commentary, they're like, she's got to get past Raquel Rodriguez. Rhea Ripley very easily gets past Raquel Rodriguez. She low bridges and sends her out of the ring. She then beats up Liv Morgan really easily. Raquel then gets back into the ring and Rhea Ripley beats her up really easily. And then Liv tries to attack and Rhea Ripley beats her up really easily. Then Dominic Mysterio makes the save and then Rhea Ripley beats him up really easily. Then all 3 of them leave. And Joe Tessitore, bless his heart, goes, took 3 of them to take down Rhea Ripley. It's like, no, it didn't. It took 3 of them to fail against Rhea Ripley. This made them look like the chumpiest of chumps.
Yeah, can't really add to that. Only thing I can add is I've been calling it the prison trap for years since I first heard
the prison trap.
Yeah, not prism.
Not prism.
But now I see it. Now I see how
it's a triangle.
And it's because I was googling the name prison trap, and nothing was coming up. Prism. Anyone else? Anyone else thought it was the prison? Because Dom went to prison.
Can we have
to jail?
Can we have a poll? We have a live poll here. Did you think it was prison or prism?
This one's on me. We don't need to do a poll, but maybe other people could send in moves they had misheard. Yeah. So blah blah blah. Judgment Day stuff. Seth and Pierce are backstage. Reed attacks him, and this is when we get the match made official for Crown Jewel. There's a War Raiders promo. They look to their ancient ancestors for inspiration.
Yeah. The Viking stuff is still there.
Then, Judgment Day.
Whoa. You're going to skip over WWE's most watched reels?
Yeah, I was going to. It's all women. It's all real.
Yeah. No. Are you surprised?
I don't go on. Is it all on TikTok or
I think well, it's Instagram. It's reels, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the one I do know because I'm on Instagram these days.
You're most of the views. Judgment Day, they're backstage in their little rascals clubhouse. And
I used to call it the Judgment Den.
Okay.
You can have that.
The Judgment Shed. Finn says, like, they all get their bits where they're like, here is my story. It's like you've gone into the room in the video game and you're talking to each person.
Every single one of them.
They're not really interacting with each other. So Finn's like, we'll handle the tag team titles. I'm more concerned about Damian Priest going for the World Heavyweight Championship again.
Because that feud is not over.
And then Dom says, hey, maybe I could become new World Heavyweight Champion. Which was funny.
It was funny.
No one laughed but us and Carlito.
Yeah.
And Raquel's like, why are you laughing?
Well, actually, what do you do here?
Which was funny.
It was funny.
And Carlito goes, I bring the cool factor. Like, Judgment Day aren't cool. Carlito's not cool. But then he like corrects himself. So, well, actually, I'm the fixer. In fact, I'll go fix Dom a match against Gunther right now.
Yeah. Good stuff. It was the better Carlito thing on this show.
Then we got LWO versus American Made, which we've kind of already covered. I thought this was the second best match on the show.
Very good.
It's the classic Cruisers versus Giants.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there was one Dragon Lee dive that he just went I don't think he was going to stop.
No.
Unless he hit Julius.
Unless Brutus stopped him.
Yeah, but he went over Brutus.
Oh, and it was Julius. Julius was the wall.
Yeah. So that was great. And then, of course, the Creeds are doing the deadlift suplex stuff inside. Really good mesh of styles. Ray gets the hot tag. Match goes crazy. But then Chad stops Ray running the ropes. Zelina slaps Zelina slaps Chad. Ivy Nile's going to take out Vega, but Vega does her Hurricane Rana into the steel steps. And that lets Dragon Lee pin Brutus.
Yeah, well, so at the start of the show when they were showing people arrive and Rey Mysterio made fun of Dominic Mysterio's mustache, I was like, oh, they're probably going to win then. And then when the match was happening, I was like, there's no way they're going to win here because, well, American Made kind of need a win at some point to feel like an actual credible group. Surely they should win here. But no, they didn't. I was genuinely surprised. I suppose, my GMs does stipulate that the best triple threat is to have two babyface teams and one heel team. So maybe that's where...
Is that true?
That's what...
Make a note.
That's why, why they did it. But I was surprised that American Made lost.
Yeah, I think they really need a win. I think they're a victim of circumstance right now, where pretty sure New Day are going to win next week, the container ship. So that means either LWO or War Raiders get pinned. I don't think it's going to be War Raiders.
No. And I
think the winner of this match takes the pin in the triple threat.
And I think actually on that note, you are right. And the point you made earlier as well with the Ray and Woods thing probably does line up LWO to be the right winner here. I am still surprised, but I actually think you're right.
But it's a shame that it's American Made's expense. Hopefully it's just, the wheel goes round. They're taking some losses at the moment.
Yeah.
And when the time is right, they'll start to get wins. Then we've got Damage Control talking to Pierce backstage about Jackson and Legend. Said that? Jakara Jackson? Yeah. Jakara Jackson and Legend costing them their match again. And then they walk out. And Carlito walks in and says, observing, this foreign language that he'd just overheard, I got to learn Chinese.
I could not believe it. I could not believe my ears.
What? But I don't see race.
Yeah, I mean, if we're taking, this is the Triple H led Triple H led creative. So I guess that he does not see color. He's told us that himself. Yeah, not.
But he does though because he made that joke.
Yeah, tone deaf. This was out of
language deaf.
out of place as well in 2024. This feel like if this had happened in 2006, when the company was a much colder place, we would look back on it now and be like, man, could you believe they said that? I mean, I guess it was in 2006, but man, I can't believe this. I mean, Vince McMahon said the N-word on TV to John Cena. It's just something that you said back in those days on TV. I don't think you should be doing this now, though. I mean, Triple H has actual history of dressing up as an Asian character called Dr. Hung Lo. Yeah, you don't see that in many documentaries about his run with DX. I thought it was also on the McMahon thing, the McMahon documentary. There was a theory that post-wrestling, I think WWE did have some involvement in it. And I kind of was like, I don't think they did. And I've spoken to someone who works in archive to be like, how do they give all the footage? And they kind of explained some things to me. But then I was thinking back to it, I was like, actually, now I think about it, when they do all the blackface stuff with DX, they never show Triple H on screen. And when they show DX raping Stephanie McMahon, they never show Triple H on screen. They only ever show Waltman. And Waltman's not in the documentary.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think there's no place for this. I think it's gone down poorly. I think in another age, this would have been talked about a lot. But everyone's got good graces with WWE at the moment, so I don't think it's not being treated as big of a deal as it would have done a different time.
Well, I think also just even a couple of years ago, if this happened, people would see it more as not a character-based thing. Because I think you could argue there's a character reason for him to say it, but it's just Vince McMahon putting in a joke because he is.
Yeah,
he finds that funny. Whereas here, I think, people have, like you said, more good graces. WWE as a company feels like a babyface promotion. So you can attribute things to character motivations more than you would a directive of someone who just wants to say horrible things on TV. So I don't really know how I feel about it, because some people are like, WWE obviously know it's wrong because they took this part off of the social media upload.
Oh, did they?
But then if you think about it, the social media clip upload is to get over the matchmaking with Gunther and Dom. If it starts with Carlito saying that, it makes no sense.
If that's the first line of the segment, as he's looking at no one off screen.
So I think that's just the social media clip, how it should be best uploaded. But then there's the argument of, well, Carlito, he's a heel. He's the butt of the joke, really. He doesn't understand. He's the bad guy here. So he's just saying like a thing a bad guy character would on a film. But in this thing, I don't think he's the bad guy. I think he's been portrayed as a sympathetic, turning babyface because the Judgment Day are slowly turning on him. He's
a doofus, is what he is. So the argument to get put forward there is that it's Kevin Smith's argument for Banky in Chasing Amy, saying a lot of all a lesbian really needs is a good deep dicking, and it was like all the defense of that is that, well, it's Banky and he's the idiot character who says idiot things. If Carlito is the idiot character, he has also said an idiot thing. But Carlito on TV previously has not been talking about anyone else's race. If his character was, I get everyone's race wrong, then maybe you could make an argument that this line is just, well, it's with all the other lines that he said that he's got wrong. But that's not been his character up until this point.
The storyline wise, this turns into Carlito pitching Dom for a Gunther title shot to Pierce, and Pierce says, well, I'm not going to do that. Pierce laughs as well. And he says, well, if Dom can beat a former world champion next week, then he can probably get a number 1 containership. And then Pierce ends by saying, I need a drink.
So he's facing Damian Priest next week.
Do you think?
And, well, a former world heavyweight champion.
Who turned up the last time WWE teased that?
Yeah, but it's a former world heavyweight champion. And The Rock's never won the world heavyweight championship.
You're right.
It's either got to be...
There's not many, is there?
It's got to be Rollins, Drew, or Priest.
It's Priest. That makes a lot of sense. Bron has an interview with Jackie, and then Kathy, speaking of, talks to Gunther in the locker room. Gunther says that, this has nothing to do with your family or your daughter. You and your title are one of many. It's got a long lineage. I'm Gunther, and I am one of one. He's one of 3. 3 people have held the title.
No, but Gunther as a whole.
4 people with Drew.
Gunther is one of one as a whole. As a complete wrestler, he's one of one. There's no one else like Gunther.
Is it Cody's one of one though?
No, there's loads of people like Gunther. There's a Dustin literally next to him.
So Damien then walks in and says, once Gunther is done with your business in Crown Jewel, you'll come back and you'll have a problem with me. So
yeah. The fact
Finn Balor versus Damian Priest.
I was going to say, the fact that Finn Balor brought him up earlier and Damian Priest has now done 2 weeks where he said, I'm done with the Judgment Day. I've finished my business with the Judgment Day. Makes me think he's not finished his business with the Judgment Day.
Yes. Overall, I gave this 70%. So essentially a 3.5 out of 5. I thought it was the best 2-hour show they've done so far, though. Much better paced.
Yeah, and it's the 3rd week of it. The 2nd week, I don't think you can really look at because it's a taped show. But I thought I enjoyed this episode of Raw. I thought the final moments of it were really, really great.
I thought it flew by. Before we get into our remaining chat gables, let's say a big thank you to our wonderful Pledgehammers on Patreon, patreon.com/WrestleTalk. That's where you can get your own shout out, custom wrestling nickname, and loads of exclusive content. The Batsman, Nathan Batty.
Probably better than Kyle, Philip O'Reilly.
The man who wears the gold, the man recognised by Swift Nation International as the 24/7 champion, our legend.
Mr. Moneybags, Rich Holt.
Daylight Robbery, Rob James.
Bebop and Rob Steedley. Well, then the problem is, it's like, well, that's not his name. It's not Bebop. Oh, no, it is Bebop. What am I saying? Oh, it is Bebop. Yeah, sorry, I misread it. Bebop and Rob Steedley. That is good.
The Energizer, Rockstar.
Defarm General, Robin Dietrich.
Ross Pooper, Scooper Cooper.
Rue the Day, Rory O'Brien Kelly.
Hear Me Roar, Sir to Lion.
And lastly, for this Hall of Fame class, on the Tuesday, the 22nd of October, 2024, the Pharaoh, Stephen Mazza Pharaoh.
Thank you very much, patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Right, our remaining chat gables. Mike says, so not only do Io and Kairi have to do so much heavy lifting in their tag match, as Raquel is clearly still quite rusty in the ring, but they are then rewarded with a stupid DQ finish and Carlito making a racist joke. They better be getting belts soon.
Yeah, I mean, even then, I don't think just giving them belts makes up for it. I think there's a genuine apology needs to be made. Even if it was a Carlito ad-lib, I think an apology needs to be made.
There was actually a moment, I think 3 years? I don't know when it was, actually. You know, when Io Sky, yeah, so she's in the ring, and a guy heckles, go back to China, and Io Sky says, I'm Japanese, bitch.
It's the Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
But yeah,
she should have turned around and said that.
Yeah.
And then this whole it makes
the whole
it much
thing
better.
Would have happened.
Yeah. Ket says Liv has been the worst women's champion since Carmella in 2018. Her first reign wasn't good either with those Ronda Rousey matches. Oh yeah, it was terrible. I think she is a better wrestler than Carmella, but that's such a low bar.
Should add as well, she's been the worst booked women's champion since Carmella. Like, you know, a lot of the issues with Liv as women's world champion are very few to do with her and more around the position that she's putting on TV. Like, she's just beaten up week in, week out by Rhea Ripley. And it makes her look so naff.
I feel like a portion of people are starting to turn on Rhea now.
Well, unsurprisingly.
Rather than being turned on by Rhea.
Well, you know, I mean, they probably still will be turned on by her, but like they'll just have hate bonus for instead, massive hate wanks over her instead. But it's like, if you are going to keep pushing Liv Morgan as a dunce that gets beaten up all the time, and Rhea is too strong, then you start to get the when Becky Lynch was she used to be called Becky Hogan by the the online crowd because she won a lot.
Caleb Cannon says, the ending of that women's tag match really made me upset. I was genuinely getting so into the match and was happy to see Liv Raquel look better than I think they have done the last few weeks. But no. DQ. They put QD there. Can't have the women's champ just win a match. Too easy.
Yeah, if you can't pin Sky Pirates, they got the match.
You've also got to make them look bad in the post-match angle too. Mayor of Painesville, Dan, says, hello, Luke. Hello, Ollie. Long time no see. Hope you're doing well. We have to talk about Carlito. He's a 2000s wrestler. Therefore, I love him. But I'm afraid his days in WWE are numbered. He isn't an NXT guy. He's older. And now he had that promo.
Yeah, like, bringing Carly back was an interesting idea anyway, because it's like, what role do you have for Carlito in 2024?
Well, the Judgment Day, obviously. It's such a natural fit.
Yeah, and like some of the early stuff they did together was quite funny. But again, maybe it's just like because the group are booked to be doofuses that it hasn't made him feel special or cool anymore.
But the report is they're going to push him as a single star.
But why? Well, like, you know, we could push Miz as a single star as well. Mate, I would put him and Miz together as a crap tag team.
Some guy says this gives Jey a reason to side with Roman. Also, what do you think Kevin Owens will do when he sees Sami rejoin Roman's bloodline? My money's on the psych ward. I hadn't even considered that.
Only hit me over the weekend when I actually thought about it. Because I think all this Kevin Owens stuff has been so great. And then I was like, oh yeah, then Sami's going to rejoin. Whew.
Haven't had one of those for a while. Overdue for a Sami KO match. Roach Senpai says, I get that you need to further the Bloodline story, but what was the point of winning the title if Jey was going to drop it back to the guy he won it against? At least give it to a new champion who never won it. Jey barely had it for 3 weeks.
Well, you know, when you watch episodes of The Simpsons and they do something big and wacky that's going to like really world-breaking moments for characters and stuff, you always have to have a gag at the end that reverts everything back to the status quo. Bron winning here just reverts us back to the status quo we were at the start of this Simpsons episode.
And also, Bron held it for like 4 weeks.
Yeah, he didn't have it very long either.
Demon Arc 117. So, for me, something that is annoying me about Raw is that there are 2 spooky stables, Judgment Day and Final Testament, and neither can buy a win. Both groups come across as the biggest mooks around.
I don't know if Judgment Day is spooky anymore.
I don't think Final Testament is spooky.
You don't think the Final Testament are spooky?
I see spooky as bits of supernatural nonsense.
So kind of the Wyatts.
Yeah.
I would say that the Wyatts are the spooky group.
They're the spooky group.
But I would say Final Testament are a spooky group.
Okay. But yeah, they're definitely not being booked. Which is weird, because I think they're getting a lot of like TV attention to develop their stories.
Yeah.
Like, that's great. But then they lose all the time.
Yeah, well, Karrion has had that since he came back.
Shellhard. Hi, guys. I think a good pitch after Seth and Reed's match at Crown Jewel. Seth turns heel and feuds with the Wyatts.
Oh, I don't see that happening.
No. I just want Seth to keep doing what he did this week. Real Double J. Going to start a petition to call it a prison lock so it morphs Rhea's gimmick into being a Creed tribute act. Is Prison Lock a Creed song?
I don't know, you're the Creed fan.
Well, only that one album. Also going to petition Seth's gimmick to become Jet Jaguar if he's moving into the Kaiju verse, and R-Truth to join as Godzuki.
Well, I don't need the R-Truth one, but Seth is the perfect Jet Jaguar if I've ever seen one.
Who's Jet Jaguar?
He's a crap Godzilla character that has become a bit of a cult favorite because he featured in like one of arguably like the naffest of the Godzilla movies of the 1970s in Megalon, and it became like during the 2000s was like the butt of all jokes because he was a crap character. But he's had a bit of a resurgence as of late, and now he's sort of been like, you know, now like a lot of things that are old, he's celebrated more as what was crap is now kind of fun and cool again.
So he was Godzilla's ally?
He was against, if I remember correctly, Megalon and King Ghidorah in Godzilla vs. Megalon. I think it's Ghidorah, or it might be Gigan actually.
What is he, like a robot?
It's been a while. He's a robot that's controlled by a child.
Yes. Okay. Very Pacific.
Maybe it is Gigan. I'm starting to think it's Gigan, you know. Or is it Ghidorah?
We've got the result of the poll here. What did you think? 41% of people did think it was Prison.
That number has actually surprised me.
So that means about 60 people out of 150 thought it was Prison.
It was Gigan.
Thank God we know that. Thank you, Tony America, for gifting 5 Memberg ships to Scuba Steve, Mishasumra, Keska, Ryan Tobin, and CM, and Chocobo Kid gifted 1 Memberg ship to Aztec Warrior.
I think that's a Seska.
A Seska.
As in like Francesca.
Well, that's very nice for the sharing there. And finally, for now, Kevin says, more like Monday Fight Raw, am I right? Every segment led to a brawl of some sort, which gave the show a big anything can happen feel. Unfortunately for Jey, I wanted to see what he could do in the mid-card with the title.
Well, can't do that. He's main event Jey Uso.
Mid-card Jey Uso. Mid-card champion Jey Uso.
That was your name for him. For like once he came up with the main event moniker and then wasn't in any main event matches, you used to call him mid-card Jey Uso.
I'm annoyed I didn't think of that. And finally, for now, Chris Wagstaff, this has just come in. Hey guys, since Dom is facing a former heavyweight champion next week, Really hope we see him squashed by Goldberg.
Whoa!
Ziggler Goldberg levels of fun to beat.
That is fun. I think it will be Damian Priest because that is narratively satisfying with the groups and stuff.
It's a great idea, though.
But Goldberg is so funny.
For Dom as well. When that dun, dun. Some more have come through. Kevin says, it's not going to happen, but hear me out. New Day lose the tag title match and Woods blames it on him not being good enough and Kofi not being focused enough. He walks out on New Day, but Kofi says, do whatever you need to, but I still got your back.
Yeah, maybe they don't win.
Yeah.
I mean, City, if the thingy isn't until the end of November.
Need to stretch it out a bit. Let's see what the final result of the poll is.
Yeah. Not another big one, it must be said. It's 64% thumbs up, mid 27%. So I would say since it's gone to 2 hours, it's been much on the lower ends.
Well, it's not that. I mean, the wrestling has had to be sacrificed for story. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us here today. Please go over watch the WrestleTalk news that went up earlier. And what else can we promote? 3 Count. A 3 Count episode went live for Crown Jewel over on the WrestleTalk channel. But for now, I've been Ollie. This has been Luke Owen. DAD. Jam that jam.
Jam that jam.